All right, everybody, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at synonyms.
Ooh.
But not just any synonyms. We're going to be looking at nuanced synonyms.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you can say the same thing using different words.
Yeah.
And it has a totally different impact.
Exactly.
And we found a great source for this deep dive. So, without further ado, let's jump right in and see how we can all learn to use words better and understand people better when they use certain words. So
it's all about precision.
it is all about precision. Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Because there are a lot of words in the English language that kind of mean the same thing, but how do we choose the right one at the right time?
Exactly.
And that's what nuanced synonyms is all about.
Yeah, so the first pair of words we're going to look at are angry and irate. Now, our source says that both of these words obviously mean displeased or upset in some way, but they have different
connotations.
Connotations, that's a good word.
Yeah.
So how would you describe
the
difference between angry and irate?
Well, I think angry is like, kind of like everyday frustration. You're stuck in traffic, you spill your coffee, your internet's not working, you're angry.
Right.
But irate suggests something more. It suggests a loss of control.
Oh,
almost like a raging.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's like a much higher level of being upset.
It is.
You know what? Now that I think about it, I was actually once irate at a restaurant.
Oh.
They brought me the wrong order like 3 times in a row.
Oh, no.
And the third time, I think I actually said, "This is outrageous, I'm irate."
Oh, wow.
I don't think I've ever actually used that word in real life before.
Well, clearly they pushed you to your...
They did. I was very hungry.
To your limit.
They pushed me to my limit. So I guess I was hangry. There's a whole other...
Right, a whole other...
synonym we could get into.
Exactly.
So I think this really illustrates how choosing the right word can really paint a picture for the listener.
Yeah, absolutely.
It also makes me think about how, you were saying that it can make a difference if you're reading it too. So if, let's say, I'm reading a news article and it says, the CEO was angry about the recent stock drop versus the CEO was irate about the recent stock drop.
Right.
I'm going to have a different image of that CEO in my mind.
Exactly. You're going to be much more fearful of that CEO who's irate.
Exactly.
Because you think they might be making some irrational decisions based on their emotional state.
Right. That's a really good point. So it's not just about how we use words, but also how we interpret the words that others use.
Absolutely.
And speaking of interpreting words, the next pair we're going to look at is persuade versus coerce.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Because this has some serious implications.
Yeah. So the basic definition is that both of these words involve getting someone to do
something.
Something.
Right. The method is very different.
The method is very different. So what would you say is the core difference between...
Okay. So persuasion is like appealing to someone's better angels. You're appealing to their reason, their logic, their emotions.
Oh, okay.
You're trying to convince them that this is the right thing to do.
Oh, okay.
Or the best thing for them.
So it's like you're giving them all the information and letting them...
You're respecting their free will.
Right, respecting their free will.
Yeah, exactly.
To come to a decision.
Yeah.
Okay, so what about coerce?
Coercion is more about force.
Force.
It's about pressure, threats, manipulation.
So you're not really giving them a choice.
You're not giving them a choice. You're saying, do this or else.
Ooh. Oh,
yeah.
Right.
So there are definitely some ethical considerations here.
Yeah. I can see how that...
It can be pretty tricky.
Yeah. And it's interesting. Think about marketing.
Right.
A lot of marketing is about persuasion.
Yeah.
But some marketing can kind of edge into coercion.
Oh, that's interesting.
Where they make you feel like you have to have this product.
Yeah. I know what you mean. It's like that feeling of, I'm not good enough unless I buy this thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's really important to be aware of these tactics.
So I think this is a great example of how just one word can really completely change the meaning of the
meaning and the implications of what you're saying.
Wow. Okay. So let's move on to the next pair, which is curious versus nosy.
Oh, this is a good one.
Yeah. I think we all want to be seen as curious, right?
Yes.
But nobody wants to be
nosy.
Right.
Because curious has positive connotations, right?
Right.
It means you want to learn, you want to explore.
You're interested in the world.
You're engaged.
Yeah. So what's the difference? How does it...
But nosy crossed that line.
Nosy is when you're getting into other people's business.
Ah.
You're crossing boundaries.
Okay.
It's like,
so it's all about boundaries.
it's all about boundaries. Like, you can be curious about someone's work
Right.
and ask them questions about their work.
Right.
But you wouldn't ask them about, like, their divorce.
Okay.
Yeah,
That would be nosy.
that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess it's all about being mindful of
Context.
and the appropriateness of your questions.
Right.
Yeah, I like that. All right, moving on. The next one is
Okay.
confident versus arrogant.
Oh, this is a classic.
Yeah, these are two words that I think are
Often confused.
often confused,
Yeah.
but
They're very different.
they're very different. So how would you define confident?
Well, confidence is about believing in yourself,
Okay.
knowing your worth, knowing your strengths, but without putting other people down.
Oh, okay.
It's like a quiet self-assurance.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're
You don't have to brag.
boasting.
You don't have to boast. You
Yeah.
just know you're good at what you do. Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
What about arrogant?
Arrogant is when you let it go to your head.
Oh.
It's like you think you're better than everyone else.
Right.
And you often put other people down to make yourself feel better.
Oh, so there's that element of it.
It's like an inflated sense of self-importance.
Right. It's not just about
Yeah.
being confident. It's about being
Superiority.
superior. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's like confident is a healthy level of self-esteem.
Self-esteem.
But arrogance is like, it's gone too far.
It's toxic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And for the last word pair today,
Okay.
we are going to talk about economical versus stingy.
Ah, yes. Money matters.
Money matters. Money matters.
Yeah.
So, again, I think we all want to be economical, right?
Nice. We want to be financially responsible.
Right. We want to be smart with our money.
Make wise choices.
Right. But when does that become stingy?
Well, economical is about being efficient.
Okay.
Getting good value for your money. It's like, you're not wasteful, right? But you're not afraid to spend money when you need to.
Okay.
Stingy is when you're unwilling to spend money, even when it's necessary.
Oh,
Even if it means you're depriving yourself or others.
so it's like you're taking it too far.
You're taking it too far. It's like, refusing to buy new shoes even though yours have holes in them.
Right.
Or always splitting the bill down to the last penny, even if it makes everyone uncomfortable.
Right. It's like you're putting the money
It becomes an obsession.
above the relationship.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow. So I think this deep dive has really shown me how just one word can make a
Huge difference.
huge difference in how we
Yes.
communicate
How we perceive things
and how we understand
and how we interact with the world.
the world. And you know what? I bet everyone listening right now is thinking about
Yeah.
all the words they use every day.
Thinking about their own vocabulary.
Right.
Yeah.
And whether they could be using
Precise language.
more precise language. And I think that's the biggest takeaway from all of this,
Absolutely.
is that being more mindful of the words we choose can really help us
Connect better with people.
connect better, avoid misunderstandings,
Avoid misunderstandings.
and just generally be more effective
More effective communicators.
communicators. And that's really what it's all about,
That's
right?
what it's all about.
Awesome. Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive today.
Great discussion.
Yeah, it was a really interesting one.
It was.
But before we go, I want to leave you with one final thought.
Okay.
What are some other words that you use frequently?
Ooh.
And could you find more nuanced synonyms for them?
That's a challenge for everyone.
Yeah. So go out there, explore, and keep refining your vocabulary.
Keep learning.
Keep learning. All right, everyone, that's all for today.
Bye.
See you next time.
See you later.
Bye. Ready to unlock some secret code?
A secret code? You mean like ciphers and enigma machines and all that?
Not quite, though it can feel that mysterious sometimes. I'm talking about double meanings in English.
Oh, I see where you're going with this. Those tricky words that seem to shapeshift depending on who's saying them and how.
Exactly. And we're going deep on this today, decoding those double meanings with your expert insights. And we've got a fantastic source as our guide, Decoding Double Meanings, Mastering Context in English.
Sounds intriguing. I always love exploring the hidden depths of language.
Me too. And for anyone listening who's ever felt puzzled by a word that seemed to have multiple personalities, this deep dive is for you. We're going to equip you to navigate those tricky situations, where you're not quite sure which meaning of a word is intended.
It's like learning a secret handshake, but for words.
I love that analogy. It's like you're in the know, you've cracked the code.
Exactly. And once you understand how double meanings work, you start to see them everywhere.
So Ready to jump in?
Absolutely. Let's decode these double meanings.
Okay, so first things first, our source makes it clear. Some words in English can wear different hats, like they have multiple meanings depending on the situation.
Right. Think of it like this. One word might be a master of disguise, playing different roles depending on the context. It's all about adaptability.
Okay, I'm picturing a word in a trench coat and sunglasses, switching identities.
Exactly. But how do these words pull off these double duty acts? Well, one way is through literal versus figurative meanings.
Ah, the classic duo. Explain that one for our listeners.
Sure. A literal meaning is like the word's everyday outfit. It's the straightforward dictionary definition. Take the word date, for instance. In its literal sense, it refers to a specific day on the calendar.
Got it. Like, mark your calendars, folks. The deep dive is happening on March 1st.
Precisely. But then we have the figurative meaning, where words get to wear something a little more, shall we say, expressive. They take on a more imaginative, metaphorical sense.
So in the case of date, its figurative outfit would be
a romantic outing. Same word, completely different scenario. Now, date evokes images of candlelit dinners and maybe some awkward first date conversations.
Yeah. And that's where things can get tricky, right? Because how do we know which outfit the word is wearing at any given time?
That's where context steps in, like a detective, to crack the case. The surrounding words, the situation, even the tone of voice, all these clues help us decipher the intended meaning.
So our brains are constantly playing detective, sifting through these linguistic clues. And you know what? Speaking of words with multiple personalities, our source brought up a word that immediately made me think of my furry friend at home. Bark.
Ah, yes, bark. A word that can really throw you for a loop if you're not careful.
Exactly. Because on the one hand, it's that sharp sound our canine companions make, but then there's another type of bark entirely.
Right. And this is a prime example of how a word can shapeshift depending on its part of speech, whether it's acting like a noun, a verb, or even an adjective.
So we've got bark as a verb, the action of a dog, shall we say, voicing its opinion.
You could put it that way. But then we have bark as a noun, referring to the tough outer layer of a tree.
Two completely different meanings, but just one word. And I think it's fascinating how we effortlessly switch between these meanings without even realizing it most of the time.
It really highlights the incredible processing power of the human brain, doesn't it? We're constantly analyzing language and context to make sense of things.
It's like our brains are these amazing code-breaking machines.
Absolutely. And you know what's even more interesting is that bark is just the tip of the iceberg. Our source compiled a list of 10 common words with these double meanings, and some of them are pretty surprising.
Oh, I know what you mean. Some of them really caught me off guard. Should we take a look at a couple more from that list? I think our listeners would love to hear some examples.
Let's do it. How about the word jam?
Jam. Ooh, now I'm thinking about a delicious strawberry jam.
Exactly. That's the noun form associated with delicious, fruity spreads. But jam can also be a verb, describing the act of being stuck or trapped.
Oh, right. Like we're in a traffic jam or the printer's jammed again.
Precisely. And isn't it interesting how one word can capture both something enjoyable, like a tasty treat, and something frustrating, like being stuck in traffic?
It's amazing. Same word, completely different vibes. Any other words from the list that you think our listeners would find particularly interesting?
Well, how about the word well? We use it all the time, but I bet most people don't realize it has a double meaning, too.
Good one. I'm curious. Break it down for us.
Okay, so well can be a noun. And in this sense, it refers to a deep hole dug into the ground to access water.
Like the villagers gathered around the well.
Exactly. But well can also be an adverb describing how something is done. For example, she did well in the test.
So we wouldn't say she dug a well in the test. Though now that I say that out loud, it's kind of funny.
You see, that's why context is key. It's like having a map to navigate these linguistic twists and turns.
I love that. It's like context is our GPS, guiding us through the maze of double meanings.
Precisely. The more we pay attention to context, the more effectively we can communicate and avoid those, shall we say, awkward mix-ups.
Because nobody wants to accidentally compliment someone's well-digging skills when they were talking about their exam results.
Exactly. So listeners, remember, context is your friend. It's the key to unlocking those double meanings and ensuring smooth communication.
It's like having a secret decoder ring for the English language.
I like that.
Yeah.
A secret decoder ring for understanding words in all their multifaceted glory.
Well said. So as we wrap up this deep dive into double meanings, what's the biggest takeaway you'd like our listeners to remember?
That English is full of surprises. And these double meanings, they're not just random quirks. They add richness and depth to the language.
Absolutely. They invite us to think more deeply about the words we use and how we use them.
And that brings up an interesting question. How many other words in our everyday conversations have these hidden meanings that we might be overlooking?
It's a great question to ponder. Maybe it's time for all of us to put on our detective hats and start exploring.
Indeed. You never know what linguistic treasures you might uncover.
So to all our listeners out there, keep an ear out for those double meanings. You'll be amazed at how many you start noticing. Until next time, happy decoding. All right, so you guys want to learn about using stronger verbs in your English, huh? Well, you came to the right place.
That's right. Today we're taking a deep dive into a book called Power Verbs, Transform Your English.
And we're going to unpack how these little words, these verbs, can really make your communication more powerful.
And, everyone always talks about strong verbs, but we're going to go a little deeper today.
Right, yeah. Beyond the basics, we're going to really explore why these verbs work the way they do.
Exactly. And the cool thing about these power verbs is, well, they're not just about, giving information. They really create a more vivid experience for whoever's listening or reading.
Gotcha. Okay, so give me an example. What makes them so powerful? What are we talking about here?
So the book gives this example of using devour instead of eat.
Okay.
And when you say devour, it engages all your senses. You don't just understand that someone is eating, you can practically hear it.
Oh.
You can picture how enthusiastic they are, and you can almost taste the food.
You really get pulled in.
Yeah, exactly. It just pulls you right into that experience.
Yeah. I was reading a book review the other day. It said, I devoured this book in one sitting.
Right.
And I was like, whoa, that must be one captivating book.
Yeah.
Made me want to read it right then.
I bet, yeah. And it wouldn't have been the same if they had just said, I read the book quickly.
Totally.
Yeah.
No, not the same at all. So it's not just about using a big fancy word. It's about picking the one that really gives that.
Triggers a stronger reaction.
Yeah, exactly. Stronger reaction.
Like you said, yeah.
Okay, so another example.
Sure. So the source talks about the difference between she gave a speech and she delivered a speech.
Okay, yeah.
And I mean, it's a small change, but
That's subtle.
Delivered makes you think she's authoritative, that she's got a purpose.
Right.
And everyone heard her message.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah. I never really thought about it that way. I'm starting to see that there's more to it than I thought.
Totally.
It's not just opening up a thesaurus and picking a long word.
No, not at all.
That's about the right word.
Okay. So the book, it gives this whole list of power verbs. How are you supposed to know, which one to pick?
Right. There are so many good ones to choose from.
Yeah.
But the key is, what nuance are you trying to get across? What do you really want to say?
Okay, yeah.
So they have this practice section, and the sentence is, she blank the mystery for the class.
Okay.
So if you want to say the explanation was super clear, everyone got it,
right,
you might say, she illuminated the mystery for the class.
Oh, okay.
But if it's more about uncovering hidden clues and stuff, then unraveled might be better.
Oh. So even though they're both strong verbs, it's really about what you're trying to...
Yeah, what you're highlighting, yeah.
Okay, I get it. That's where those subtle differences are really important.
So what's the, big takeaway here for our listeners?
I'd say, remember, power verbs are tools to make your communication more exciting and effective.
Okay, yeah.
But like any tool, you got to use them carefully.
Right. You got to know how to use them.
Exactly. And think about the impact they'll have.
Okay, so what's our challenge for everyone listening today?
Well, I want you to pay attention to the verbs you use today. Just notice them.
Okay.
Try swapping in a power verb and see how it feels.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. Does it change how your message comes across?
I love it. Great advice. Go forth and amplify your English, everyone.
That's right.
All right. Thanks for listening.